to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. It is October 21st, 2018, and you're here with your hosts, Lori Hood and Lauren Smith. How you doing, Lori?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Fantastic. It was a beautiful day, beautiful weekend. Can't complain. Glad to, be back on air and ready to hear from our guest. How's the weather down where you are? I know it's the Gulf of Texas now.
Well, it has rained and rained and rained and rained until I'm sick of rain. Truly sick of rain.
Yeah.
Today it did not rain. It was actually beautiful. But I think we're having rain the whole rest of the week. And it is getting kind of the feeling of fall now. And thank goodness for that. We actually drug out our heaters this morning because it was chilly. So it's, I know.
That takes a lot for you guys to turn your heater on. Y'all are never cold.
Absolutely. Especially me, because I'm so hot-natured, Mm-hmm. Everybody else is running around with coats and shivering, and I'm sitting there, with a sleeveless shirt on, shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's been really wonderfully cool, and I like that. I like the fall that is finally here, because this is the time of year that's best for squatching in East Texas. You don't have as many mosquitoes and snakes and stuff, and it's just a lot more hiker friendly out there. But then you're dealing with hunters, so it's kind of like you take one for the other, right?
Mhm.
So, anyway, anyway, this month is just flying by. My goodness, before we know it, Halloween's going to be here, and then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. Wow, it just blows me away how fast it's going. Did you have anything to share?
No. Nothing big in my world.
Okay. Well, tonight we have a wonderful guest from Canada, Ontario, actually. He was born near Huntsville, Ontario, and he has great hobbies, including hockey and fixing things, and he has a lifelong interest in Sasquatch. So we're going to bring Blayne Tyler on tonight, and Lauren, can you do you have a computer? Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll go ahead and let you bring him on and
okay.
start the interview. Okay.
I don't know if you fell out or I just didn't hear you, or anyway, how are you tonight,
Probably.
Blayne?
Oh, can you guys hear me there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm just getting feedback or something. It was working great before we went live.
Oh, of course. That's how that works. Is it still doing it to you, or are you doing well? Okay. You're
yeah,
good?
I can hear you. There's just a lot of static or something.
Is that better?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. Got the fireplace on. It's a little cold here.
So what part of Canada are you from?
I'm from Huntsville, but area, not actually in Huntsville, but I'm over more eastern, closer to Ottawa.
Okay.
Not quite in Ottawa, like outside Ottawa, but that's not where I go. I do like a big loop around to different areas.
Okay. When you squatch.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, you said earlier, before we went on air, you said that it had been snowing there, that you had gotten snow today.
Yeah, just a few flakes in the wind there. No, nothing on the ground. It's just got a little chillier than normal. So We're about a month ahead. We should have some nice 60, 70-degree weather right now. I don't know what's going on.
Oh. Well, so sorry, I have a gnat in here or something. So do you find that the snow coming early, is that going to impact your the season, your Squatch season, your researching?
Oh, no.
I mean.
No, actually, in a way, it helps. Sometimes I go out in bad weather because that way I don't run into hikers.
Oh, okay. That's actually a pretty good plan there.
Yeah, well, sometimes, if you make any noise or if you have to try to communicate, then if there's hikers not far away, then they hear you and then they come in and can spoil any interaction, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay, so let's start this off. Usually what we do is we start off by asking, how did you get into this? That's like our standard question. How did you get into this field, into this this topic?
Well, for me, I had an encounter when I was in like grade 6, so I think I was around 11 years old. My brothers and myself and a friend of the family's went to this hunting camp, and I was really young to be hunting, or they were older than me, so they'd be having a few beers and stuff, and then they'd sleep in all day, and so that basically I was out hiking around a lot on my own. And one day I was just following some, game trail or whatever on the southwestern borders of Algonquin Park, and I came into an open area, a bit of a hill, a down slope part of the hill. There are these gorilla-shaped things just inside the tree line, and they're just watching me. They're not bears. They didn't take off because there's hunting camps all along the perimeter of the park waiting for animals to stray out, right?
Right.
So anyway, I just kind of looked at them, and they watched me, and they just kind of remained motionless, but you could see them, and I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. And then, I get scared, and I went back to the hunting camp, and then, I don't know if I mentioned it to my brothers. They wouldn't really take it very seriously, right? So, but that night, I heard footsteps outside the window that I was sleeping under.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that night.
That would do it
they followed me back. Sorry?
I said that would do it for me. That'd be enough to scare me a little bit.
Yeah, well, the thing was, once I was fearful in the beginning because, they looked so powerful and, they weren't exactly pretty-faced or whatever. So, that alone can scare people away, but they didn't do anything. They could have, right? They they watched, and then they followed me, and then I heard the footsteps outside. It was kind of like Mount St. Helens, where they were knocking on the cabin walls or something, right? And I was hiding under my sheets with just my eyes open past the top of the sheets, watching the window. And I don't know if I want to see something or not, but I didn't end up seeing anything, but I could hear something outside the cabin.
Oh my gosh.
And then after that, I kind of, you become fearful of the woods, right? So I didn't really go into the woods. I was pretty young. But I think after that, my grandfather, he took me to see Mysterious Monsters, and then I seen the Patterson footage. I'm like, that's what I seen.
Wow.
That's what I seen in the woods, except a lot of them.
So when you say a lot of them, Blayne. How many did you see?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. There's at least 6 or so because they grouped together. I mean, you could see the ones out front, but the ones that were like all kind of like hiding behind shoulders and stuff like that, you couldn't really see how many. But you know, that's the one thing that one of the first things I realized is they don't like hang out in small family units like us, like 4 or 6. It's like a group effort, right? They hang together in a group, and that's how they defend their territory or they hunt or whatever, right? That's one of the first things I learned about them. But I couldn't tell because, like I said, the little ones were hiding. The big ones weren't afraid, but they were, you know, they weren't like running either. And there was like a light thick bush kind of thing going on. You know, it wasn't like open like a park, but you know, you could see the shapes in behind the thickets. You know what I mean? And they were just curious. They just stood there and they seen this little blonde kid come walking up, you know, slight kid, and then they watched, and then I walked back. They didn't do anything, and then that night I heard the shuffling sounds outside the cabin wall.
Wow. Well, apparently they really like you, even as a kid.
Yeah.
Well, when you saw the Patterson footage, did you tell anyone then what you had seen after you saw that?
Well, just my grandfather, the one that took me. But you know, one thing that bigfooting in Canada is a lot different than bigfooting in the States.
How so?
Well, there's not any real open general support for it. We're kind of still under the radar up here, except if you follow certain people, right? Or if you're into it. Yeah. But I mean,
well, how are you treated in Canada as being a believer?
Well, usually, depending on who you're saying that to. One example, when Dr. Bindenagel came to Ontario 5 years ago, he visited me and some other researchers, but we were on this hike. And before we started our hike, we wanted to have lunch. And he pulled out some of his casts from BC and Washington State. And they were really nice casts, beautiful casts. And while we were looking at these casts, a stranger went by, a couple, and they were going hiking on the same trail. And he goes, the guy said, "What are those?" And Dr. John said, "Oh, those are Bigfoot casts." And they just kind of laughed and kept going. And here's a scientist with real Bigfoot casts, and that's just the general perception because, I don't know, the media won't cover it up here. Even if you have footage, they're worried about losing sponsors or something.
Wow. Well, they're kind of,
we actually, I was going to say that we actually had a guest on last week that had this same issue he lives in Britain, and he kind of has the same issue, is that he would like to, have a show about cryptids, and it's just not accepted there the way it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I think that's largely in part because of our the show Finding Bigfoot.
Right.
I think that show, even though a lot of the American researchers kind of thumbed their nose at that show, the one thing that show actually did, though, was open up the whole subject to where anybody has heard about it, and it's not quite as, I used to get laughed at 20 years ago, but now people will say, "Oh, you do? Have you seen one?" Instead of like you used to get 20 years ago, So, and so we're, I hope you're keeping track of Blayne. He keeps falling out. Okay.
Can you guys
there you
hear me
are,
now?
Blayne.
Now we can hear you. Sorry.
Okay. This time it sounds better.
Oh, good.
Oh, awesome.
So I missed the 30-second gap there, but so up here it's a little different, but I mean, it depends on who you talk to. Like a month ago, I had our OPP, which is the equivalent of a state trooper, at my house for some vandalism, and I told him about an occurrence at my house where I was out in the field nearby and then just doing like a background video, and then that night something mounted on the side of my house that made my picture frame shake.
Wow.
And I didn't say the word Sasquatch or Bigfoot. He brought it up. Was it a Sasquatch? Said, well, as a fact, it was. And I said, and I told them they're real. They're very hard to see with our eyes. My dog used to be able to spot them and would refuse to go off the deck.
Wow.
But I posted this video when he was working up in northwestern Ontario. I think he's seen one cross the road in front of him, and the elders told him, yeah, that's a Sasquatch.
Oh, wow.
And so that's an OPP or state trooper, and so even someone with that credibility, they're not going to come forward because they don't want to be the guy that filmed Bigfoot, and then that would follow him around his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So everyone's they're a lot more conservative up here about the whole topic.
Well,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. America used to be that way about 20 years ago, but we've come a long way. As I don't know if you heard before you fell out, but it's mainly because of the American television show Finding Bigfoot, and so I think that has really opened up people's perception of the subject possibly really being here, and even though it wasn't a show that was making fun of them or anybody, so that was whereas before that, anytime anybody interviewed someone about seeing a Bigfoot or having a Bigfoot, they made fun of them. The media would, and they tend to do the same thing over in Britain. So it will come along. But you're planning on moving to the States, aren't you?
I don't know. Sometimes I go across the border, and I do stuff like that.
But you were planning to visit. You were going to visit the States.
Yeah. Sure. I was going to come visit you guys.
That'd be awesome. Okay. So tell us about your sighting in the fall of '91. Were you on your honeymoon?
Yeah, honeymoon. No. I know that there was a typo there. Alberta, Honeymoon Lake.
Honeymoon Lake. Okay.
Yeah, in Alberta. I was coming back. I used to work out there at the lodge up in Jasper, and at that stage I was interested, but I just wanted to see one, like at a safe distance. You know what I mean? I want to see one crossing an opening at 50 yards away or whatever. You know what I mean? Just a bit close enough that it wouldn't be mistaken and bright enough, but you know what I mean? And so.
Oh, he fell out again.
We lost him again. Man.
I know, this is hard. He's it's really, really difficult unless you use like a Skype connection.
Mm-hmm.
But we are talking internationally, so
yeah.
I can't complain that we're getting to talk to him at least this much. I apologize to those out there that are like, well, if we wanted to listen to those ladies for 90 minutes.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah,
we'll just wait for him to call back in,
He may not have realized he dropped.
I don't know, he's probably just talking away.
Yeah.
Well, goodness gracious.
Let me text him on Facebook and let him know he did drop out.
That's funny. Oh, wee. I do think it's interesting how different it is everywhere. You know, if here versus, you know, another country. I don't know. I guess I can see why America would be more accepting, but I don't know, you know, like European countries, they're so much more accepting and open-minded of things, you know, I always thought, I guess, you know, certain things, but.
Right. Well, you know, you have to think about the terrain and the weather up there. It is just unforgiving winters, unforgiving. And I would think it'd be very, very difficult to survive up there.
Maybe.
Blayne is back with us now.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Welcome back. All right.
So I don't know what part you heard, the last part, so maybe you could pick up what you heard.
Hello?
Well, we're both just a little jet lag today or something because I was out of town and all, but and we tried to pick up the conversation after you get dropped out, and then we can't remember where you left off. But you were you were talking about Honeymoon Lake.
Right. Okay. So I was getting back to my car after hearing the branch breaks, and I came up to the big sand dune. I had to hike over to get down to the car. We're on the parking lot, and I got in my car, my little silver Honda, and I was looking up through the window because I wanted to see the bear or cougar or whatever it was. Maybe it's just an aggressive elk. And then really quickly, this gray-brown, huge gorilla head, like the size of a big pumpkin, peeked over, up and down, like within like a half second. And I seen it, but it's so fast, I was like, what? And so then I left, and I was kind of in a state of shock. And I was driving back, because, you know, it was so big. I was driving back to the lodge, and I just lost track of time. I mean, it might have been a 2-hour drive, but it only seemed like I was driving for 5 minutes. And
what time of year is this?
That was in the fall too.
Okay.
That was in the fall too.
Okay, so it was before all the snows and the low temperatures of winter, right?
Well, you can drive through different parts of the mountain and run into snow. But
right.
It was on the lower levels, I guess, where it's still meadows and grass and stuff. But if you go higher altitude there, and you run back in the snow. But yeah, there was still like the grass or whatever. It wasn't covered yet. It was just like, you know, October or whatever. And but here's the thing about that encounter. A lady stopped at the exact same spot like a year later or that summer or the next summer. I think it's on the Alberta Bigfoot report. And this time when it followed her back to her car, it walked right into the parking lot. As she was driving away, she could see it in her rear view mirror, and it was 3 feet over the 9-foot sign.
Oh, my God. 3 feet over the 9-foot sign?
Yeah, she was saying it was like, you know, it's the top of the sign, which are, 9-10 feet high, whatever they are, the road signs, you know, for, you know, at the top, you know, no parking overnight or whatever, or the speed sign. I don't remember what kind of sign, but it was only up to its chest.
Wow.
So this thing was at least a 10-footer that did had the exact same behavior, followed this woman right back to her car in daylight and right into the parking lot. And like I said, she could see it in her rearview mirror, and she was shocked. And she said she'll never go in the woods again if there's things like that running around.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Well, you know, some people don't believe that they do get that tall. So we've got several witnesses and reports out there that do say they get that tall. In fact, I've seen one that was 11 foot. So, you know, that's tall. That is taller than the 7 or 8. And
yeah, probably maybe like a 12-footer.
Yeah. Yeah. So was this during the day or at night that you had this sighting? Because I think that we missed some of what when you fell out and didn't realize you had fallen out.
Oh, well, mine was middle of the afternoon, and hers was in the day. And I just don't recall if it was morning or afternoon. But in the middle of the day, this huge Sasquatch walks up into the open. It might have been trying to abduct her.
Maybe. I hope not.
Welcome to Canada.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, when did you start seriously watching after that?
Well, I was keeping an eye on the topic. You know, I was still kind of afraid to go back, but I seen Freeman get his footage there, and you know he wasn't very far from me. I could have driven to his house. I drove right through where near his areas when I was coming back to Ontario. I went through the States, and I seen his footage, and I said, "Hey, I always thought that footage was pretty good. The one crossing the path after he found the print."
Yes. Yes.
And I was like, "Hey, that's really good," but then. You know, like just snooping around back then, it was the early beginnings of Bigfoot organizations or Bigfoot forums and stuff like that. And he didn't get much support. And I was like, I didn't really understand it. Like this, there's a real Sasquatch. This guy filmed it, and I remember that. I remember he really didn't get much support at the time for his footage. And I mean, he got lots of TV coverage. But within the community, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I've seen them, and that's a real Sasquatch, just like with the Patterson footage.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I guess it gained support over the years, and then I moved back to Ontario, and I'm watching, and, waiting for some follow-up, and then we went years again without any footage. And then before Paul Freeman's footage, we have to go all the way back to Patterson's footage.
Right. And you would think that Freeman would definitely get more acknowledgement for that footage. And for the truth watchers out here, you know, the ones that have had sightings and experiences and know, they almost always will believe in the Freeman footage. But I think the thing that it is nowadays is the worst skeptics are our own people. And as far as supporting each other, they should, but they don't always. It's quite sad. It really is. Because if you don't
we lost him.
Oh, gosh. Well, if you don't have the support of the community, you don't, it's like we're never going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Let him know he dropped. Mm-hmm. Wow, this will be a long hour.
Oh.
It seems like as long as he stays talking, he does not get dropped. So what we need to do is just tell him to talk about anything. Here he is.
Go pick up a book and start reading.
Hey, Blayne. We have discovered that as long as you're talking, you won't fall out. So I'm going to tell you what. You just talk about whatever you want to right now. And we'll see how that works, okay?
You guys can hear me again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the Freeman footage, I just, I was following online and doing some, light duty footing, where you go into the areas, but you don't really commit too much, because I don't know if you heard what I was saying, that nobody carries guns up here unless you're just specifically just going hunting for that day or that weekend. And then otherwise, nobody has weapons when they're hiking, right? Except bear spray or a small knife.
Oh, right.
So, I when I'm doing research and, I don't know if guys are just, they're the commoners are just being trolls or what, but why didn't you walk over to it? Why didn't you do this? Well, it's, you're a lot braver with a big weapon in your hand that you can shoot for defense than, where you're a lot safer. But that's the environment up here. When you go into the woods, you don't carry weapons. There's some parts in BC that you're allowed to carry rifles because of all the black bear activity.
Are you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I wasn't sure.
Yes, we still hear you, Blayne.
So anyway, I had to get over my fear just if I wanted to get footage or film of them, knowing that I'd basically be walking in unprotected, right? So that's a different scenario when, you're going into creatures that can walking amongst creatures that can break trees in half, and you don't even have a handgun on you. So
is it pretty
different.
Heavily forested where you live, Blayne?
Is it heavily forested?
Yes.
What? Oh, yeah. Well, I live like northeastern Ontario kind of thing. And, yeah, most of the Canadians, 90% of the Canadians live along the U.S. border and around the lakes. So, there's areas up here where you could just pull over and start walking and not run into anybody. And you'd be in trees and water and marsh and Canadian Shield, which is basically granite. And, there's cottagers all over the lakes, but there's lots of gaps in between, right? So, yeah, it's pretty heavily forested. There's lots of water, lots of game. And I was mentioning in the intro, or the Duke of Montana says hello.
Hey, Duke.
Hey, he said say hello to the girls for me. I call him the Duke of Montana. He's Duke Sullivan. And anyway, the Sasquatch have unlimited land up here, right up to the Arctic tundra. Really not much. Once you get past the cities that are more in the southern parts of the provinces, there's really nothing. There's no barriers except just natural barriers for them. So they can have as much domain as they want. And actually, Dr. Meldrum was in Ontario years ago researching Bigfoot at a cabin on maybe Snellgrove Lake or something like that. That's north of here, northeast of here. But yeah, he was up here years ago. I don't know, 7-8 years ago maybe. I think they might have gotten some DNA off blood from, they put down like a little tack board that they, to keep bears out from pushing on the doors. But I think maybe Sasquatch might have stepped on it and they had something like that. Maybe, I don't know if they collected it or not, but that was part of the video that they did that. But the Sasquatch were throwing rocks at their cabin. And while the one guy that was talking had a rock thrown over his head while he was just outside going to the washroom. So the remote ones don't like being disturbed.
So,
but
knowing that they have that much territory and everything, how do you go about finding them? I mean, how would you? That would be like a needle in a very huge haystack. So, how do you go about locating them? Oh, see, he dropped out again.
No, it's because you stopped and asked a question.
I know. I don't know what to do. Oh, my goodness. Maybe you should ask.
Well, I think, it's just he's in Canada, and as advanced as technology is, stuff happens,
Well, I'm curious to know, if you have such a huge area, how do you even begin? I mean, where do you begin?
I know it.
Okay. Hey, Blayne, you have such a huge area. Where do you begin to find Sasquatch? That's the next question.
Well, for me, because I don't use a quad, something like that. I hike everywhere. So for me, I have to first search for access away from areas, right? Away from the busy road. I have to find another road, and then maybe find a dead-end gravel road. Then I park, and then I scout the area. But I don't know. It's almost like sure, the tourists can spot one or maybe get lucky and get some footage or a hunter, but I'm just going to put this out there. It's almost like the Sasquatch can connect with certain people. Have you ever talked to anybody like that before?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, about how certain people are Bigfoot magnets. That's what we call them.
Yeah, because even when I'm not looking for them, I get activity. And totally, like 3 hours from my area, I'll be hiking up to a path with my wife or my kids, and right before I get into my car, I'll get a loud wood knock right behind me, and I'm not even doing anything to attract their attention. And that's happened several times in different parts, and parts where I wouldn't want to be doing research because it's just too busy with tourists. But they go and do a big loud knock right in the middle of the day, and you're like, geez, they're following me.
Well, basically, do you just look around, or do you use equipment? Do you bait? Do you do anything like that?
Well, specifically what I do is, I don't know if you guys heard this, but how I learned is I studied the Freeman and Patterson footage. Patterson's footage uses hunting style to go after Bigfoot, whatever. And Freeman was pretty much, I don't know if he started it, but he was the first one to get the media attention. But he used habituation style research. And then he got the footage. I'm just going to the same area and getting used to them, right? So I used a combo of both two. And I look for key things that I've noticed in what they like before from running into them. Like I said this to the state trooper or PP, is that they like a certain safe distance from you, from the trail or from a cottage or whatever, some point of interest to them. They like to have a natural barrier, like maybe some swampy area, and then they'll be on the other side of the pond or something like that. There's a lot of keys to their behavior pattern that, you've won from one group to the other, it's similar. And this doesn't apply in my area because there's water everywhere up here. You can drive 20 minutes in any direction and find a big lake or a river or something. But the first two films, footage of Bigfoot, Patterson and Freeman, the key thing was the creek, the water. They both got up. They both were just at went out into the open to get a drink from a clear area of the water or the stream, and the Bigfoot researcher showed up and got footage. That was the key to both those two films.
Yeah.
Well, I look for similar keys. I can't use water up here, so I look for similar keys, like they like to be about 50 yards away from a trail, or they like to have an opening and then a bit of clearing, like a escape distance or something if a hunter spots them, so that by the time the hunter crosses the little field area, the Sasquatch is already half a kilometer away. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's different every time, but there are some similarities. But then it also comes back to that for some reason they just find me. And I've gotten used to them. Okay, they're not going to hurt me, so I don't have to be afraid. And it's really tough. You have to fight it. You have to really, I guess, master your fear, so to speak, without sounding too machismo or something like that. But you really have to control your fear, because they study you. They study your behavior. That's how they learn. They're not just learning about you. They watch every inch of your body movement, because that's how they read you. So I'm a real casual, laid-back guy. I've had deer walk right by me. I could have reached out and patted them. And stuff like that happens. Fox, stuff like that. A regular Grizzly Adams. No, but anyways, but it might be different here because nobody carries weapons other than deer hunting. Nobody is shooting at them. If a strange creature or aggressive creature, not saying that you guys shoot them, but you know what I mean? There's no reason to fear, and they know what guns are. They know what guns do. They may not understand the mechanism. I don't know, a year ago, I could hear the heavy breathing of an adult Sasquatch who was trying to scare me away. I stumbled into their area, and it kept doing this heavy breathing, puffing, not grunts, but sound. And then someone in the distance shot my rifle. And as soon as he heard the rifle shots, the intimidation stopped. I don't know if you caught all that.
Yes, I did. He was huffing.
So,
that's what we call it here in America. Huff.
I mean, people say that this thing was kind of circling me and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't afraid, and people said, no, that lung capacity is much too big for a deer. Maybe if there was a moose right close to you and something like that, then maybe something like that size, 1,200-pound animal. But as soon as it heard the gunshots, it stopped, and there was no more intimidation. So they watched hunters pass right through their area. They do their little hiding tricks, and they've watched them pass, and the little...
Uh-oh. Oh, we lost
him again.
Well, I had the questions for him, but I was really afraid to ask him.
Oh.
Yep.
Goodness.
He'll come back. It's so very interesting. He says that they know where he is. Well, that's not really that unusual, because you're going into their environment. They know they pretty much know where everybody is. So
yeah, that's their house.
I'm just curious if Blayne has ever done any calls or heard any vocalizations, and there he is. Oh. Okay, Blayne.
Hi, ladies.
Hi. I have a question for you very quickly. Have you ever done any vocalizations to try to bring them in, or have you ever heard any that you believe to be Sasquatch?
Oh yeah, I have. I've heard them talk, both in their own little speech, whatever it is. I've heard them mimic English, as well as I've heard them whoop.
Can you kind of show us how it sounds? I mean, Would you be able to do that?
Well, I can tell you how it sounds. Well, I mean, I got videos of it on Blayne Tyler's that one. I got videos of it on my channel, of the breathing one, the talking one, whichever one. Yeah, my YouTube channel. They're a couple years old or whatever. Just go through the history. But the talking one, this adult Sasquatch hit me with this speech, but it was English. It was choppy, fast, and very powerful. But it was the context of it that was weird. It was like they were just mimicking what they heard, and like a dialect between two hunters talking. Just mimicked both conversations at the same time. And that's how it was trying to communicate with me or something. But I've heard that.
And what about you? Have you tried to talk to them that way? Or?
Yeah, I talked to them. I've also heard their, I don't know how else to call it, but I've heard some of their samurai talk, and also heard that like kind of a screechy, whispery kind of talk.
Huh. I know what you're talking about because I recorded that one time. Like, was it similar to that?
Well, there's a little bit of that, but it's the same whispery, scratchy sounds like I'm from that Utah reservation where they were recording the weird sounds from the swamp. Have you ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Heard those vocals?
Yes.
So
yes.
I heard that right at my car. They followed me to my car and did that to me. So in daylight. So I was sitting there and I had a crappy little conference recorder, which I thought was good enough, but I always blame myself for not the recorder for not getting the audio. And it turns out, unless you're talking right into the mics, it doesn't record anything, but I didn't know that because I tested it at home and it seemed to work with us. But yeah, I've heard them do the screech talk, whatever the scratchy, whispery talk. I've heard them mimic English. I've heard the samurai talk. And I've heard them scream too and whoop. The screams are something else.
Yeah.
If you hear it live and close by, it's like dual pitch, high vol and bass all mixed together kind of thing, and there's nothing else that sounds like it. You hear that, and you go, and once you heard it once, you'll. I guess the closest thing would be trying to recall it. What's the one, where they were sitting out in their cabins and they were hearing the Bigfoot screams at night in the canyon from out west?
Are you talking about the Sierra sounds? Is that the one you're talking about, or?
Oh, I've heard that, but
Ron Moorhead.
Yeah. I actually chatted with him about some of that.
Yes.
No, this is the ones where the adult Sasquatch was just ripped, screaming like every 3 seconds, and they were recording it. I think Oregon Bigfoot has it. They were recording it, and the guy who was recording go, "Oh my God!" And they just heard this thing roaring and roaring all for a half an hour, and everybody packed up and went home the next day. But I can't for the life of me remember, but that's what I've heard, but closer.
So have you ever tried doing any roars or screams of your own? Try to listen to the song?
Yeah, I have my own whoop. I do. I don't try to mimic them because I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're that intelligent that they know that, hey, you're not a Sasquatch. You know what I mean? We know not a Sasquatch. So I just do my own. And at first, maybe they don't know what to do with it. But when I do it later on, they say, oh, that's that guy. They identify that sound with me, not just someone trying to mimic them. So I don't try to imitate them. I have my own type of whoop that I do. And I've heard people comment on my videos, oh, that's not right. I'm like, I've had them respond and come right up to me after doing it, like not right up to me and that way, but like get closer, so close they wouldn't give out audio because it would give away their location, right?
Right.
Once they get within a certain distance of you, they usually don't give you very much vocals. Once you can turn and see them 20 feet away, they're not going to do it at that range kind of thing, you know?
Right. What about leaving them gifts or food? Do you do anything like that? Yeah,
I used to do that, but then I think it was because I'm hiking in the same areas where hunters go, it was tipping the hunters off that, hey, somebody else is here. But I used to leave red pipe cleaners, or different colors, but they seem to like the red ones, and the juvies used to just move them around. And I've gotten pictures of them hiding, ducking, peeking behind rocks, I don't know, or trees. I don't know if you're familiar with some of my videos.
Yes.
But
well, I've seen your pictures.
Well, I got a lot more. So I do a little bit of gifting, but because I share the crown land with hunters, I don't do that too much because it gives up my location, maybe even theirs.
So have they ever left you anything?
Just like rocks and stuff like that. Nothing too intricate. I'm trying to trip over the word. But one time, I gotta bring this up. I think I mentioned this to you. One time, when I was hiking in the winter, I was hiking on a heavy packed snowmobile trail, so I had to really move my arms to keep my momentum going. One of them came right up behind me and purposely strode into my left hand on the backswing, so I punched him in the thigh.
Oh. So you touched
and it was,
him?
Yeah, I touched one's leg. I punched one's in the leg. And it's like punching a bodybuilder's thigh muscle. And I used to have to work out all the time for hockey, my legs and stuff, when I played hockey. And when you work out that often, your legs don't really give that much when you hit them, or they get hit. There's a little bit of soft tissue and then just solid muscle. And basically that's what it felt like, hitting like a bodybuilder. He was right behind me, like a foot behind me, breathing on me.
Not too many people will believe that, but I believe it's possible. I've been pretty close to one enough that I heard his stomach roll over.
Yeah.
Not to mention it grabbed your toe.
Oh, yeah, I had one grab my toe. So,
yeah,
that's right.
Was he playing Little Piggy?
I was in a tent, and my toe was pressed up against the tent wall, and he was on the other side. And I had a strange sensation, and when I went to pull my foot, I realized something had a hold of it. And so that was crazy. It made me uncomfortable, but now, I think it's pretty cool. But at the time, it was like everyone else was asleep. I know it's the real deal. Yeah, and we found the tracks the next day.
Yeah, well, when that happened to me, I slowed down and I sort of looked at my hand and I wanted to acknowledge what just happened, but I was afraid to look over my shoulder. I didn't want to see a 10-foot tall Sasquatch or an 8-foot tall standing a foot away from me. I took a little bit, and then something weird kind of happened. I sort of lost track of time, and I had to go sit down. I don't know how to explain it. I was in a daze for a while.
Well,
I don't know.
That happened to me after my first sighting. I thought I was in shock. Do you think maybe you might have been in a little bit of shock? Oh, he's gone again. Oh, my goodness.
Really, if you think about it, it's like a cliffhanger.
I know it. I know it's a cliffhanger. I just need to quit talking to him. Let's see.
I mean, they're
everyone out there listening going, just shut up. Every time you talk, he falls out.
No, I doubt it. We're trying. Oh, dear God. Cliffhanger. I can understand why, he wouldn't want to tell anyone about punching a sass in the thigh. I mean, because if you think about it, I mean...
It was just like that story about the guy there on the Red River. It's Red River County, Bigfoot report. The guy come out as a camper trailer. It was a bus made into a hunter's trailer. Something kept rocking the trailer, and he got mad, and he thought it was one of his buddies. Who comes out one of those, how the bus has those flippy doors? Mm-hmm. Well, he come out of that and run smack into one, face first. Got a face full of hair. Yeah, so it happens. Hi, Blayne. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm listening.
What were we? Lauren, bring us back to what we were talking about, where he dropped off.
Oh, I just kind of phased out. I don't know what happened, and then I just started, instead of doing more Bigfooting after that, I just kind of started heading back to my car. And, that just overloaded me, I guess, for the day.
What, do you think you could have been in shock?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of shocked, just, not expecting them to come right up to me like that.
Exactly. Wow.
And that's one of the first things I realized about, I don't know, I'm going to say wrong, with like the 70s method, trying to hunt them and stuff. I mean, that might have worked back then, but as soon as you close your car door or pull up with your car or whatever, they know you're there.
Yeah.
They just know. They know they can communicate with each other. They know, that you're there. They got better senses than us, hearing, sight. They know you're there before you even get out of your car. And so for sneaking up on them like Roger did, I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore. The only reason that happened is because they ran into a group of very territorial Sasquatch up there at Bluff Creek who were trying to scare off the road construction workers. And so that was probably their first run-in with white men, whereas they easily could intimidate out First Nations out of the area, right? So when white men show up with their bulldozers and their rifles and everything else, and there's a bit of a conflict going on there. So that's one of the big reasons Roger got his footage, is because they were trying to intimidate all these people out of their territory. I mean, they were leaving thousands of prints all around the roads and around the construction equipment at night. And at one point, some of the 300-pound drums of diesel fuel were picked up and thrown like a softball. Another occasion where the road workers were having lunch, a Sasquatch came out of the bush, 20-inch prints, I think, 18 or 20, picked up the trailer full of metal culverts and tipped it down the other side of the road. And to this day, a couple of those culverts are still there. And I believe MK Davis found one on one expedition in there once.
Yes.
So that's what happened, I think. They had a clash. The Sasquatch were trying to intimidate the road construction guys out of there. Patterson went down whenever he got the call from Hodgson that there was more prints, and then he hung around longer than anybody else. Everybody else was just doing weekend or a week expedition. He was there for a month, riding up and down all the roads, and sooner or later the Sasquatch let their guard down and it gets footage. I mean, that's my opinion, because after seeing, learning about it, I've read as much as I could on the history, right from Crew finding his prints right up to Patterson and after Patterson at Bluff Creek. And just to me, the Sasquatch were being very aggressive, trying to intimidate the guys out of the area.
Yeah, well, there were rumors that there was a great massacre there at Bluff Creek of the Sasquatch. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I know that M.K. Davis put that forward, but here's the thing. I mean, that's his opinion, that's fine. As we all know, Sasquatch aren't that hard, are very hard to find and film. And so unless there was an open attack, like, you know, in the open somewhere at their truck or and their camp, and they were attacked, how would you massacre them all? I mean, we can't even find and film one again like that in the open.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I understand what he was thinking, where he was going with his evidence, with the footage of, you know, the puddle of blood or a dead Sasquatch, but I mean, these guys didn't have any experience at hunting Sasquatch. Their dogs were afraid to track them. The Sasquatch, we all know, are the hide-and-seek champions of the world.
Yes.
So how would these guys manage to shoot one, let alone a group of them?
I don't know.
And they're not that easy to kill. Like if you've gone back further to the Ape Canyon, Beck and those guys, they shot one in the head, and it still kept running. And it was only like a 7-8 footer. So I don't support the massacre, because not that I don't discredit the evidence that he believes. That's fine. It's his opinion. But I know how hard Sasquatch are.
What do you think about Patty being wounded?
Yeah, I see that. I see that on her leg, that hernia, and I think that one of the guys who were guarding the road construction guys were just taking shots to the woods, and she got clipped, and so she learned to fear weapons and men on horseback. So that's why she didn't take off straight into the woods, but she tried to get more distance, because she knew that the woods nearby wouldn't protect her from bullets, perhaps. So she bolted the full length of the sandbar.
She did. Do you think she had a young one that she was protecting?
Yeah, maybe, because, you know, she's 7'4", whatever, 6. She's probably been breeding age for 5 years or whatever age they start at, whatever size. And so there's probably young ones around somewhere, and I call it the kill deer trick. You know that bird that pretends that has a wounded wing, and it leads you away? So, yeah, that could have been part of it, too, where she didn't want Patterson and Gimlin to notice her young ones left in the creek, so she bolted right to keep their attention on her while the other ones scurried off into the woods.
Okay, I'm going to change gears here. Have you ever researched in the United States?
A little. I was in Montana, Washington State, and just snooping around. But this is when I just wanted to see one. I didn't really try to track them down or anything. I was just through what looked like a good area, and just watch, right? So I didn't do what people do today. You know, I already had my scare of a lifetime a couple times over. So I just wanted to see one at that age, at a safe distance, you know. And so that's where my head was at then. Montana, when I was doing that, I got chased by a buffalo.
A buffalo?
Yeah, I didn't know. I climbed the ridge behind this place I was staying, went into the woods, and I guess there was someone had a buffalo herd that they were raising, either or for, you know, just protecting, or it was for they were raising them like cattle. I don't know the reason, but yeah, I got chased, and I was on the other side of the fence. it still charged the fence and tried to come through the fence. That's not too far from Yellowstone.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, is there anything you just want to share with us? Just share away. We're about through with questions. So,
okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Have you ever researched with anyone else, or you've always been a loner?
Well, he's a loner.
He's a loner?
I've gone out with other researchers. I've gone out with other researchers. Like, I know Mike Patterson. I know Jim Timber Giant. But Ontario's huge. Ontario's like the size of Oregon, California, Washington State, and maybe throw in Texas all together. So we have to literally drive a day to get to the middle of Ontario.
Oh, wow.
So we don't really get together, but that's a while back, and I just find that going by myself and being quiet about it and not being, not having Bigfoot stuff all over the car or the truck, it helps me sneak in and out of places, and then I can get footage or have an interaction or find a print and cast it without drawing too much attention, and then it doesn't ruin the location, right?
Right.
So, but I do bring it up. I drop the Bigfoot bomb whenever I can on people. I got pictures of them on my phone. I got videos and I got a little bit of audio. I showed the state trooper OPP guy a picture I got from a provincial park, and I said, "Can you see it?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I can see it." A little 6-foot gray-haired one was following me back to my campsite. I turned and just took a picture. This is before I had a GoPro.
Wow.
Yeah, I try to go in quiet and anonymous, and I go unarmed, and I go in just casual, laid back, and they either interact or just let me pass by.
What do you think they are?
Well, I think there's different types, actually. There's typical class 1 like Patty, and then there's the ones that just look like wild people, I guess, maybe kind of little Neanderthal looking. And then there's the other ones with like the snouts. And I've run into those guys. The ones with the snouts?
Oh, yes.
I've run into those. Those ones are aggressive.
Yes. I've seen all three, too. And I don't think that they're related at all, genetically. Maybe slightly, but it's so strange that you have one that looks just like an ape, and then you have one that looks like a kind of a human, and then another one that looks like it's part, I don't know, like gorilla with a snout,
Yeah, there's a delay between when we speak. Like the what are they called? The ones with the snouts.
Dogmen?
Those ones. Yeah, well, there's ones with longer snouts, like the Beast of Seven Shoots from Quebec. And then there's ones with like shorter snouts. So,
what I saw was the shorter snout. How about you?
Yeah, those are the ones when I run into them. Those are the ones I see. I've never seen one with a big long. I filmed them accidentally, just being too scared to look. You turn your camera to the right. You can feel them watching. I can sense when they're around when they're doing that. Eh? You know when they try to hit you with that infrasound, they try to make you nervous. That's usually when I pull out my camera. That's usually when I get footage, is when they're trying to scare me. That's when I start filming.
You know what I'm finding so incredible is that you have so many of the same experiences that I do, and we live thousands of miles apart. It's so interesting to me.
Well, I think the misinformation of them was, there's like 6 of them living out west in the mountains, and that's that's all people were willing to admit or accept. But I mean, up here, like I said, they got unlimited land, so. At first, I remember. Do you remember not too long ago when people only thought like there's 1,000 of them in all of America or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
They were so rare. I don't know what was that, like the early 2000s when people were thinking that maybe there might be 5,000 of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I probably 5,000 of them within 100 kilometers of my house. Like I don't know if that's the exact same measure distance, but you know what I mean? I remember those days when people only thought there's like, well, maybe there's a dozen of them out in California, but that's all, right?
Yeah.
And then you explain the 100 sightings in BC, 100 sightings in Alberta, 100 in Montana, 100 in Texas or whatever. It's just, so it's come a long way, but what people are really conservative up here, I guess, if that's the best way to put it. Dr. B used to say it like that. But if you film one up there, like perhaps if you got like really high-end quality footage of it, they might not even want to put it on the TV because it might scare people, kind of thing,
Exactly. Yes.
So it's either crappy footage that people can make fun of, or it's too real and it won't show up because it'll frighten people.
Yeah, that's right.
So they don't want the evidence, and I've seen a lot of the resistance evidence being not so much covered. They don't want people to be afraid to go into the woods and spend money camping and traveling and stuff. Knowing that huge creatures that you have to share the woods with. That's what it's all about, and maybe some money connected if you're in the media where you don't want to lose listeners, so don't post the Bigfoot report, right? You know what I mean?
That and down here, States, it's lumber industry and gas and oil industry, and those things are money makers, great money makers for our nation. They don't want those woods shut down like the snowy owl, or the spotted owl. They completely would not allow any kind of industry in this part of the woods where the spotted owl was. And if they discovered Sasquatch to be a real species, they would have to set aside a habitat for them if they would be considered endangered. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I think more it's they're rejecting the idea because they don't want to have to adjust where that hydro dam is going to go, or they don't want to have to go into a campground and say there was a Bigfoot spotted off a trail 2 kilometers from here. You need to warm your campers. It's better just to be in denial and say that's not a Sasquatch. What you see was a 12-foot tall black bear. And then, you know what I mean? And then everybody stays inside their protective bubble and has a happy time camping, and life goes on, right?
Right. Ignorance is bliss.
But you know, when you have state police, government workers, seeing them, and nothing's being said to the public when you go on trails, then, you know, there's that end of it too, right? It's not just, does Bigfoot exist? It's just, are we, perhaps they're thinking they're doing us a favor, not us, but I mean the general public, by keeping it off the radar so that people aren't afraid to go hiking in the woods or go camping or to take that trip or spend that money on the new camper or gear. And I mean, and then, you know, you get reports where people going missing and stuff like that, and they fight it. They fight keeping that information out of the public knowledge. So
right. I think it's just plausible deniability. If they can say, well, we never claimed that they were real, in case there is a major incident. And even then, you know, I think that they could cover it up.
Yeah, or silence the person who got the evidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's, without getting too heavy into it, there's the specimen argument, you know, collect one or not. But I mean,
right.
Do that. You can't just be one or two guys and then driving to town with it in the back of your pickup. I mean, that's not going to work. I mean, in my opinion, the ministry or the state parks people, all they have to do is say it's a public health risk, could have unknown diseases, and they just confiscate it and then deny confiscating it, and then put a gag order on you, and then tie you up in court for 20 years, and you lose everything. And then you wish you never.
And that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, because in that way, I guess it's an economy thing. But I don't know. Up here, I go about my business and I interact with them when I can. I get little clips of them peeking and hiding, watching me when I can. Get some footage of the big ones who usually just stay still. You know, I used to do research at what I call the Sasquatch dunes, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But basically, it was a sand dune area where the owner passed away, and so I thought the area was just not being used anymore as a business. So for a time, it was shut down until the States took it over, and then I couldn't go back because it became active again. But for a short time, I was able to slip inside this gravel sand pit area and cast prints. And on one occasion, I found that the little ones were using sticks as tools to dig holes. And I got a video of that. And right beside the holes that could only be made by sticks was like a print of one in the sand. So that was a good time for me finding that evidence.
Yes, I imagine so. Interesting. Have you ever seen a little one, juvenile?
I see the little ones most, like 6 feet and under the most. 2 weeks ago, I seen one run away on all fours from an area where I thought they might have pushed a tree down over the road. I was filming maybe center right. Then I seen this black shape that had a funny gait to it and didn't really look like a little bear cub, but you know what I mean? The front arms are a little bit too long.
Yeah.
Cub's front arms or legs are short. And I seen it run for like 5 seconds away, or not even 5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. But I swung the camera. Well, I mean, and at first I was thinking, okay, was that a bear? But then I got thinking, well, wait a minute. It used strategic intelligence and waited for me to turn my back before it took off. And I've talked to hunters. I already knew, but I want to talk to hunters. And I said, would a black bear cub, try to outweight a hiker or a hunter until their back was turned? I said, no. A young one,
No.
even the adults, but an adult might have enough experience to just try and wait. But in 99% of the case, I just bolt and try to get some distance, right? This little guy waited for my back to be turned before it made its run, and then I turned and was looking center, just doing some general filming after I found this barricade, and then I noticed it running out of not the corner of my eye, but kind of like on a 45-degree angle, and I tried to get it on film, but the camera was focusing on all the trees and not what was like behind them, kind of thing. You know, even when you zoom in, the camera tries to focus on whatever that's in front. So, but that was 2 weeks ago. I seen a little one take off running.
Wow, that is so cool. So do you, when is the best time up there for you to go researching? I mean, it's the fall here, the time of the year, even though I've had sightings in the summer, but the best time to actually get out there and hear vocals and stuff is the fall and winter. And what about you? Do you have a particular time of year that you have the most success?
Well, yes and no. I like to go out when we got really bad bugs up here. Mayflies or black flies. So they'll eat you alive if you go out certain time in May. So I usually skip forest hikes. I mean, you can't even go walk on the roads. They just swarm you. So there's certain times of year I avoid just because of stuff like that, like the rainy season or the bug season. So I like the fall or early winter, but when you get early winter, you're also talking hunting season, right?
Yeah, same here.
So I go out in all times of the year. I just have to tailor my mini expedition to what's going on, if it's rainy or if the bugs are really bad or, the trails are too muddy or whatever. But I like the fall, too, because it's cool. It's cooler for them to be active. They don't have to hide in the shade all the time in an oppressive 90-degree heat. And up here, it's really humid because of all the water.
It is here, too. Yeah. It is here, too. Same thing. And it seems like when it starts to cool off, they just get frisky. I hear a lot more vocalizations. When you get them cool nights, they're whooping and hollering a whole lot more than they do during the summer. But then you have all the insects during the summer. So you can't hardly hear anything over insects and frogs. I mean, it's swamp. It's like a kind of like a swamp here. It's just so loud that you couldn't hear any distant vocalizations at all. They'd have to sit right on top of you to vocalize and to be heard over the frogs and the crickets and everything. So almost checking our time, I think we're getting kind of close to the end here.
So you got a lot more stories, but maybe I'll save them for next time.
Yes, we've got to have you back. And, even though you kept falling out, it was still great having you on here, It really was. Well, we have like 4 minutes left, so is there anything you want to share with us before we leave, before we call it a night?
Anything specific, an area, or I was talking about my methods, which I started, how I got started was I just, since nobody else was filming them, I just ignored what everybody else was doing. I ignored what everybody else was doing. Right?
I think that's the thing to do, really. Really.
I didn't use anybody else's methods because nobody else's methods was working, so I just started tailoring mine. But I started off with studying the PDF and Freeman's footage, more so Freeman's footage. And and with that said, like I mentioned in my name dropped a couple times, I don't think Paul Freeman gets nearly enough credit for his research that he contributed. I mean, we need to have a Paul Freeman Day or something, because like across Bigfooters across the country. One day where everyone just does something to honor what Paul Freeman contributed, because he got roasted. He got run out of his town. He got run out of his state for filming Bigfoot, and now people support him. But, I mean, if you look at all the attention Roger Patterson and then Bob Gimlin get, compare it to what Paul Freeman did, and he did it by himself. He didn't have Al Hodgson calling him saying there were prints, come on down. He was out there every day, and I think he needs to be recognized. And I've talked to other guys, Wes, Conicles there, and Luke and stuff, and we need to have like a Paul Freeman Day or something, just to say,
I agree.
Yeah, let's do something for this guy who contributed a lot, and he's, other than just looking at his footage for entertainment, there's nothing for him.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Maybe a Bigfoot or something for Paul Freeman.
Yeah, we need to do something about that. We really do. Well, Paul Freeman. Is he still alive? Is he still alive, Paul Freeman?
He passed away. I don't know what age, but he passed away, and it had nothing to do with his footage.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So I've done videos on him a lot on my channel, trying to send some credit his way. I mean, maybe there were other people that were doing habituation too, but he's the first successful one to do it and get footage. And then it went mainstream footage. He was on Morning America and all that, and so. But he was the first one. Other people who were saying they were experts had nothing, and then they ridiculed him, saying he's just an attention seeker, but he got the job done. So
he did.
That's one little initiative that I'm going to mention when I'm on these podcast shows, is that it's going to be like 30 years or something since this footage. Is that right? 92?
Yeah.
25 years.
I thought it was in the 80s, so yeah, it was.
That was like 94, like that, 93, 94. So it's going to be 25 years this summer, whatever what happened in, I think, that he got that footage. Something needs to be done.
Yeah, I agree. Completely. Somebody does need to do something about that. So, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Blayne. You are an awesome guest, and we're going to have you back.
Well, I'm going to have to come back. You'll have to invite me down, and I'll try out your cooking.
Oh, heck yeah. Come on.
Right.
We'll take you to some good places. Huh?
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, we've got to go ahead and call it a night. We're no longer streaming, so we are now in archive. So want to thank you so much for coming on. You're an excellent guest. It was so interesting hearing how very similar your Sasquatch are to the Texas Sasquatch, which really surprised me. But anyway, I do want to thank you.
Up here, it might be a little bit more shy up here, but that helps me since I'm not armed.
Same way here. They're very shy. So,
Well,
Blayne, yes, thank you for coming on. And everyone, we will see you next Sunday, same time, same station. And thanks for listening to Night Callers, Bigfoot Radio. Good night, everyone.
Bigfoot Radio.